everyone, and welcome to the Mikey Madison Oscar campaign headquarters. Wait, no, sorry, no, this is the Dyl Pickle Movie Network. Sorry, I'm Dylan Randazzo. Welcome to my channel, the Dyl Pickle Movie Network, and this is New York Film Fest 62 coverage. And you can see with the smile on my face and my little joke I made beforehand, I'm a big fan of the film I'm about to talk about today, and that is Sean Baker's Anora. This is the one that won the Cannes Palme D'or award, which was huge. You know, an American film hasn't won that award in I don't know how long. So the fact that it won was huge. And then it went on and placed in the TIFF top 3, even though it didn't have as many showings as a lot of the other films. It had the least amount of screenings of any of like the big contenders at TIFF, but it still placed. I believe it was placed 3rd. And then it came to New York Film Festival and it took all of us by surprise as well. Not quite surprised, but it took all of us by storm. It is a tour de force film. It is a tour de force directorial effort. It is a tour de force screenplay, a tour de force set of performances, a tour de force leading performance from Mikey Madison. I mean, this is a tour de force. It is a masterwork. It is a masterpiece of a director who I feel like has gotten his flowers, at least from a respect from the fans. I mean, Sean Baker made Tangerine, which was pretty well acclaimed, made the Florida Project, which was even more well acclaimed, made Red Rocket, which I feel like was a little bit underseen, but a lot of people still really loved and really embraced. And now he kind of comes out the gate swinging in a way he's never swung before. I think this film is packed with so much more, comedy and action and just more hijinks. You know, a lot of his other films feel a little bit more, I don't want to say hangout vibes, because they're dealing with a lot of serious things. But they're a little bit more calm, a little bit more, personal and intimate and subtle in a way. But Anora, it takes the big swings. It just really goes for it. And I really love that about this film. This is a film that immediately after watching, I was like, yeah, this is going to be one of the best of the year, if not my favorite of the year. And I think with a lot of these New York Film Fest films, I'm taking a few weeks to release these reviews because I need to sit with them and need them to marinate. Whereas Anora is one where I'm ready to leave the theater and spill out a 30-minute review for, because it is so good. What is Anora, you might be asking? Who is Anora? Anora is played by Mikey Madison. She goes by Annie earlier on in the film.
This is the beautiful Annie.
Hi, I'm Annie.
I'm Ivan.
Later learn that Anora is her birth name, but you follow Annie as she, is a sex worker. You see her in her daily, everyday life, and then she comes across this kid who she realizes has a lot of money, but doesn't necessarily know who he is.
Annie, I got a kid who wants someone who speaks Russian. Let's go.
No, I'm eating my food.
You're killing me.
And then later learns that this person that she's been spending time with is kind of this like Russian prince. He's part of like a really wealthy, powerful family in Russia. And she starts to kind of capitalize on that and utilize that and be like, yo, I can get a lot more money out of this. But then through that, they actually form some weird kind of bond and connection that is actually quite wholesome and quite sweet. And the first like 50 minutes of this thing kind of plays out like Pretty Woman in a way, just watching these two kind of form this very, unconventional but sweet romance. And I think if you ended the film 50 minutes in, I'd slap 5 stars on it and call it one of the sweetest rom-coms of the year. But then it takes a total big pivot once the kid's family realizes that he got married to this sex worker, and they come back to try to cancel the marriage and say, no, you can't do that. And through that, so much hijinks ensues. So much just surprising stuff happens that I'm obviously not going to spoil for you because you have to see it with your own eyes. There was an entire, I believe, 36-minute, I think Sean Baker said, set piece just set in this house. It's like this home invasion set piece that is just so good.
Don't touch me.
It's so funny. I mean, the amount of comedy in this thing was really surprising because I went into it, having seen a lot of Sean Baker's other stuff, Tangerine, Red Rocket, Florida Project. Red Rocket gets to those comedic heights, but I do think there's still, a lot more drama in those films than there is comedy. But here, I mean, it was really funny. But the thing that Sean Baker doesn't lose is that underlying sense of drama, the sadness that comes with the stories he tells, because he tells stories that are very personal and very empathetic. He takes these very marginalized groups of people, whether it be poor people living in Florida or a previous porn star in Red Rocket, or in this case, a sex worker like Anora or Annie. And you start to see how he kind of humanizes them in a way that I think society doesn't normally allow for in modern day cinema, which is sad to see. There aren't enough stories about these types of people and these groups of people. We're all human. And I think that's what Sean Baker gets at with his films, especially in Nora. And I think Mikey Madison deserves a lot of the credit because she is the heart and soul of this film.
3 carrots.
What about 4?
She has a feistiness, she has a really strong will to her, but she also does have these deep kind of insecurities at times and this real deep longing of wanting to feel belonged and feel important and feel accepted, that when she gets into this romance, it's almost like there's just so much promise in her life, and she's able to turn it around only to realize that, like, everything that she's been building up might come soon crashing down, and that all these realities are false realities. But I do think it is what makes Anora so powerful, because you have this really great, sometimes often slapstick comedy. I mean, people jumping up and down and hitting people and kicking people in the face and biting people, and like it gets wild like that. But it also has this really tender kind of underlying emotional core that, especially in the film's final moments, just really hits you. It almost makes you cry. You're crying 1 minute from laughing, and then you're crying another minute because you feel so bad, or you just feel. And I think that's the best thing that Sean Baker is able to do, is make the audience just feel for these people, for these characters, for these human beings that, again, are not given the spotlight in media like this. I know they hosted like an all sex worker screening of Anora, which I thought was really, really cool. Mikey Madison organized it to show for sex workers, because I think this is important to show that sex work is work. It is a job. It is a career. It is a livelihood for some people. It's not because they're just women who want to sleep around. They are people who want to make a living and make a better life for themselves, and this is their way about it. And I think there's been such a stigma, such a taboo against sex work in general, but I think it's becoming more widely embraced now. Realizing that these are careers and this is livelihood and this is what it means to be a human being. And like, the American dream might not be the same for people. It may not even be a dream to be doing this line of work, but it is work, and it is a necessity for some people, and it is something that some people do find comfort in a way. And I think Sean Baker's just so good about bringing that empathy. Now, as for the performances, I mean, I knew Anora was going to be a Mikey Madison vehicle first and foremost, and she is amazing. She is incredible in this film, but the supporting cast is also just so good. Mark Edelstein, who plays kind of this Russian kind of playboy kid who is very, very immature, and we learned that very quickly, but has so many great bits of comedy because of how immature he is, and just how like spontaneous he is in certain ways. He's like, oh, let's get married in Vegas, let's get married in Vegas. Like, there's so many great moments like that where he'll just say something that's so out of pocket and just out of left field and so wild to hear with your own ears, but you just laugh at it because of the way his personality is and the way he delivers the comedy. I almost wish there was more of him in the film, because he is so funny and so good, but he also then plays a lot of the film's later moments really well, that have to kind of take this character and spin it a little bit than what it was before, and show the real immaturity side of him. Whereas like the immaturity can be humor at a point, but then it also becomes a little bit of a problem later on when you realize the stakes of the events of the story, and how when you are putting a lot of stakes into this kid's hands, maybe he's not the right person to be handling all these very important life things. And I think this film really emphasizes that. I think Yura Borisov is also very good. He kind of is this like supporting kind of background player for a little bit of the first 2/3 of the movie, but then he really starts to find his own arc, his own story later on in the film, and he becomes a real standout in both the comedy and, of course, in some of the dramatic moments. I just think this cast is very, very strong across the board. I think Sean Baker does a really good job finding people who feel like real people and don't feel like actors. It never feels like they're acting. Even Mikey Madison, who obviously, she's great in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Scream 6, but she was very much a supporting player in those. Taking this stage here as like the main character and seeing her really command this film. She is an actress, but everything feels so real, so raw. Even in her biggest moments, even in her big loud moments, it feels like Anora is that. It doesn't feel like Mikey Madison, is putting on this big performative presentational performance, which I really like. I think it really makes her, not just a real character, but one that we're able to empathize with and able to understand on a deeper level. I do think the film is very, as the kind of subject matter suggests, very R-rated. There is a lot of sex, a lot of, violence, a lot of profanity, but I do think it all serves a purpose. It doesn't feel gratuitous in a way, and I feel like it is very respectful in how it's portrayed on screen. The actors have talked about how comfortable they were on set doing it. So I really do think this is a film that, you might not want to take your mom to see. You might not want to, sit with, all your buddies and watch it, because it might be uncomfortable in that way. But I do think it could be a kind of a sweet date movie for a little bit of time until it kind of takes that pivot. I really don't know who you should see this with, but you should see it regardless, because it is a fantastic film. It is going to be one of the year's best. Could this be our Best Picture winner? I would normally say the Academy wouldn't go for something that is this involved with like sex work and nudity and profanity in a way, but I do think because Sean Baker is so good at conveying this story and making it feel universal and relatable despite the taboo of its central themes, I still think there's a chance this could win Best Picture. And I think Mikey Madison could very well be our Best Actress winner. I don't know if Sean Baker is going to be our Best Director winner because the direction, it doesn't take like huge stylistic swings in the way other films may this year, like for example, like Denis Villeneuve and Dune. But I do think the screenplay also stands a really good chance. I mean, it's not about awards, but I do think because this is kind of an early frontrunner, it's important to address them. So Anora is just a film I'm such a huge fan of. I just left the theater feeling so many different emotions. I was smiling through like 90% of it. Obviously, in its sorrowful, more, melancholic moments, obviously I wasn't smiling, but I really did have a smile on my face kind of from moment one. I mean, the big needle drops, especially in the opening kind of title card, the needle drop is so good. I'm not remembering the name of the song, but I can't play it here anyway, otherwise I'll get copyright strucken. But I really think the soundtrack is great. The visuals are really, really distinct and really memorable, but still fitting within Sean Baker's style. Yet I think he takes some bolder swings in his writing and in his jokes and in his humor than he ever has before. It is his biggest, most sprawling story yet. Red Rocket and Tangerine and Florida Project all feel very contained to the communities and the little areas that they are taking place in. This one, we'd get on planes and we fly across the country. Like, it really is such a blast through and through, while still having this really deep emotional core that I really love. So Anora, one of my favorites of the year. I'm not quick to say it is my distinct favorite of the year because Challengers, I saw the TV Glow, The Substance, those all exist. So like, it's hard to be like, this is the one. But I do think right now, of all the Oscar prospects of who I think will be up for Oscars, I think this is the one I'm going to be rooting for. Unless I see Blitz or The Brutalist and my perspective changes, because I'm seeing those very soon. But wow, like this is a really, really strong way to start the festival, because I saw this second. I saw Nickel Boys, then I saw this the very next day, and yeah, just spectacular. And I really do think this is going to be a huge, huge movie, especially for Mikey Madison, who has been playing bit roles in some of these films. She gets set on fire in both Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Scream, but she's most memorable for getting set on fire, not because of her and her performance. Whereas here, it's like people are going to be leaving remembering Mikey Madison. She's not going to be the girl on fire anymore. She's going to be Mikey Madison, Anora, and she is coming for that Oscar, and I'm going to hope that she gets it. I'm rooting for her. I really, really am. But wow. Great film. Can't wait for people to see it. Thank you so much for watching this review. If you've seen Anora, let me know in the comments below what you thought. You don't have to wait very long. It's coming out in like the next week or two. So it's coming right around the corner. It's going to be a very exciting way to end the month. So many people seeing Anora. I cannot wait to hear what people have to say about it. If you didn't like it, respectfully tell me why down below. And if you're excited for any more films that I've covered at New York Film Fest, you can check out my TikTok where I did out of theater reactions for all the films I saw at New York Film Fest. And then I will be bringing those out of theater reactions and expanding on them in full reviews like this on the channel for you all to enjoy and for you all to hear a little bit more on why I do love them or dislike them. The next film I'll be covering is Rumors, the really fun Guy Madden experimental political satire. Night of the Living Dead meets Dr. Strangelove, as some people have been saying. So that's going to be a fun one to talk about. But thank you so much for watching my review for Nora, and we'll be talking about a lot more come up Oscar season. Don't you worry. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Please subscribe. Help this channel grow. It really, really helps me, and it really gives me the resources I need to make these videos for you, because I love doing it, and I love talking about movies, especially when they're as good as Anora. I'll say it 5 more times. Anora, 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 Anora. I love it. Thank you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you. Bye.